Hello friends, welcome to the channel UPSC Gyan. In this channel, you will get the knowledge of UPSC. I I am ABC, ABC of UPSC. That is the base of UPSC Gyan. And in this series, I'm going to start the Indian polity. As you know, that Indian polity is the core of UPSC. Ultimately, as an IS officer, you as an UPSC aspirant, you are going to join the Indian polity. So let's start it without wasting the time. In this series, you will get to know about the summaries of all the chapters of Indian polity by M.Lakshmikanth sir. You are, as you know, that our Indian history, the first chapter says here the historical background. So, what is history and what is polity? There must be some link between the history and the polity. History is that we know that it is the period of Britishers. So, according to it, Indian polity has been divided into two parts. The first one, we have taken the reference as the Indian independence, that is 1947. In the first part, that is called as the pre-independence era, whereas after 1947 till today, it is called the post-independence era. So, history, what is history? We know that going to the not very large, very far history, but to the history of the Britishers. How Britishers came to India? They came in 1600 as traders to form the East India Company for trading purpose. Under the charter granted by Queen Elizabeth I. In 1765, they got the Diwani rights in of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Slowly, they started extending their territorial power. In 1858, there is a wake among the people of India in the form of Sepoy Mutiny. That is 1858. With independence came the need of constitution. Then, as suggested by M.N. Roy, a constituent assembly was formed for this purpose in 1946, and on 26 January 1950, the constitution came into being. Various features of the institution, Indian constitution and polity have their roots still in the British rule, as we have seen that recently there has been amendments in the Indian Penal Code as well as all the laws of the criminal side. So, without going much detail, let's start the first chapter as the historical background. So, this is the chapter historical background, and according to it, as I said earlier, Indian history has been divided into two parts, that is pre-independence, which is up to 1947, British period till 1947, till 1947, and post independence means after 1947 till today. So, first we are going to see the pre-independence era. What are the various chronological order of the acts and regulations which were there in that time? So, you can see the pre-independence era, which is before 1947, it has been again divided into two parts, that is company rule and the crown rule. You must have known that the as in the first, the Britishers came to India as traders, and it was in the form of company, which is the East India Company. But after that, after a certain period, the British Crown has realized that East India Company is taking over the powers. So for that, the Crown came into the role, and then he ruled the later period of the pre-independence era. So, as you can see, the company rule is from 1773 to 1858. We have taken the reference here as 1857 revolt, which is also called the Sepoy Mutiny. Sepoy Mutiny. This is not so unknown to anyone. Everyone knows that Sepoy Mutiny has played a major role in the Indian independence. So, Sepoy Mutiny taken into consideration, we have divided that 1773 to 1858 as the company rule, where the company, East India Company, has ruled it. Whereas the other part, 1858 to 1947, it has been till independence, as you can say, is ruled by the Crown, the British Crown. So, you can see the first. Okay, now coming to the company rule, you can see that the company rule has many rules and amendments in it. The first amendment, first regulation you can say is the Regulating Act of 1773. This act is of great constitutional importance as it was the first step taken by the British government to control and regulate the affairs of the East India Company in India. It recognized for the first time the political and administrative function of the company, and second, it laid the foundation of central administration in India. So, let us see what are the features of the Act. But before that, I want to tell you that the company rule has many rules and amendments. Among that, the first one is the Regulating Act of 1773. Then came the one more regulating act here, that is the Regulating Act of 1781, which is also known as the Act of Settlement. Act of Settlement. After that came the Pitt's India Act in 1784, mark the years. In 1773 it is Regulating Act. In 1781 also it is called the Regulating Act. Then came the Pitt's India Act. Then came the Charter Act 1833 and then Charter Act 1853. After that we will have our 1857 revolt. So, moving on to the next part, that is first regulation act of British India is the Regulating Act 1773. So, there are two main things happened in this regulating act. The first is it is here for the first time the political and administrative function of the company had been handled, and the second, it also laid the foundation of the central administration in India. Means the first time the administration has been centralized, not only for, as you know, that in India there were three presidencies. The main three presidencies were your Bengal, Madras, and Bihar. So, this is the first act where it has been centralized, means all the presidencies have the same administration. So, let us look at the features of the act. This act has designated the Governor of Bengal as the Governor General of Bengal. For the very first time, the Governor of Bengal has been given the designation of Governor General, Governor to Governor General. Mark these words very carefully. And The first Governor General was Lord Warren Hastings. So, the first is Governor of Bengal has been given the designation as Governor General of Bengal, and the first Governor General is Lord Warren Hastings. As I said, that the three Bombay, Madras, also the presidencies of Bombay and Madras also came under the sorry for the thing that I have told that it is Madras, Bombay, and Bihar, but it is not Bihar, it is Bombay. So, Bombay and Madras have come under the Bengal. Means the Bengal has been the supreme point, it has been the first point where all the administration have been controlled. Bombay and Madras, they came under the Bengal presidency. Then one more thing important happened here, that is the establishment of Supreme Court. The present Supreme Court which we see has been established by the Regulating Act 1773, and the composition of the Supreme Court is one Chief Justice and three judges. The fourth very important thing which happened here is the prohibition of private trade. The British East India Company, when it came to India, so the the company persons, what they have done, they have started their own private trade here. It is a hidden thing. So and because of which the corruption, the illegal transport of the things have been increased. So for that, to control that, they prohibited this is the first regulating act which prohibited the private trade and or accepting any bribes from the natives. Then the last thing here is the formation of your court of directors. And the court of directors have been given the power to report on its revenue, civil and military affairs in India. So in this way, it strengthened the control of the British government over the company by this. This is the start of the strengthening of control of British government over the company. Then came the Regulating Act of 1781. This act is actually a trial to rectify the defects of the Regulating Act. There were some disadvantage of Regulating Act of 1773. To overcome that, the Regulating Act of 1781 has been passed. This act has also been called the Act of Settlement. Then came the Pitt's India Act of 1784. This act has two important functions, two important things to remember. The first one is it distinguished the commercial and political function of the company. Means for the very first time, the commercial part and the political part has been distinguished. The political part have been controlled by the Board of Control. Here I have written BOC, that is Board of Control, will manage all the political affairs and supervise and direct all operations like civil, military and revenue. Whereas the commercial part has been under the guidance of the COD, that is the Court of Directors. They will manage the commercial affairs. So directors, as you can see, we see the directors in companies. So you can remember here that the directors, they control the commercial affair, whereas the Board of Control, the control means the supreme power to manage all the political affairs is with the Board of Control. So in this way, you can see that this is the start of the double government. So this act was very significant for two reasons. First, the company's territories in India were the very first time called the British possessions in India. Means whatever territory has been occupied by the company in India is called the British possessions. Means it has been given the power to take the land now. Now they are coming from trade to politics. The second thing is the British government was given the supreme control over the company's affair. Now, the government, British government, it understood that the company is actually taking more profit here and it is taking over the control of the administration. So, to remove that, the British government came to control and it started the control over the company's affair and its administration in India. After that came the Charter Act in 1833. This act was very final step towards the centralization. Here it is the centralization in the British India. It started with this act. It made the Governor General of Bengal as the Governor General of India. Governor General of Bengal to Governor General of India. We have seen previously that in Regulating Act, the Governor of Bengal has been named as Governor General of Bengal. And in Charter Act 1833, now the Governor General of Bengal is called the Governor General of India. Now it will rule the whole India. And the first Governor General of India is William Bentinck. Lord William Bentinck. For the very first time, the regulations, the laws made under this law, for the very first time are called the Acts, not as regulations. It deprived the Governor of Bengal, Bombay and Madras of their legislative powers. The Governor General of India was given the exclusive legislative powers for the entire British India. And it ended the activities of East India Company as a commercial body. And finally, it converted into the pure administrative body. You can see that it is pure administrative body. Now, the East India Company will they will become the pure administrative body. It has also attempted to introduce, it has introduced the competition for civil services examination. Competition for civil services examination. The examination which you want to opt now, the UPSC CSE, it has been started. It has been actually presented, you can say, attempted to introduce as an open system of selection of civil servant by the Charter Act of 1833, but it failed. They have never started it. It has started later with the Charter Act of 1853. Then came the next Charter Act, which I am just saying is the Charter Act of 1853. This was the last of the series of Charter Acts passed by the British Parliament between the 1793 and 1853. That is before the 1857 revolt. This is the last Charter Act they have passed. It has a significant unconstitutional landmark. What are the features of this act? Let's see. The very first time the Governor General Council has been introduced, which is also known as the Indian Central Legislative Council. Now we also see in our Parliament we have two houses, Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. So Indian Central Legislative Council had the very first time started with this Charter Act 1853, where it added 6 new members who are called the Legislative Councillors. And in this way, it is the start of a mini parliament. This, as there are two houses here, and it has started like a parliament, but it's a mini form. Then came the open competition for civil services. Open competition for civil services has been started with this act. And as per it, the Macaulay Committee has been formed, which is also called the Committee on Indian Civil Service, which is appointed in 1854 for this purpose. It extended the company's rule and allowed it to retain the position of Indian territories on the trust of the British Crown. It has extended the company's rule, but no particular period has been mentioned. For the very first time, the local representation, that is the local representation in the ILC, that is the Indian Legislative Council, Before that, before this act, all the members in the parliament and the of houses, there were only Britishers. Britishers can be the members, but for the very first time, the local people, the local members, they joined the Indian Legislative Council. 4 out of 6 appointed by the local government. The local government is the presidencies, the head of the presidencies, the Madras, Bombay, Bengal, and Agra. These were the presidencies. And 4 members out of 6 members of the Governor General Council has been appointed by the local government. Then came the crown rule, which we will see in the next class, in the next part. Thank you very much. If you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe for more such videos, and give such comments if you want to rectify. If I have done any wrong in this video, then you can comment and you can tell me. Thank you. Thank you all.